guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at another amazing offering from Jack Wolf Knives. This time it will be the Vampire Jack. And as you see, I have truly fallen head over heels deep into this. I am loving Jack Wolf Knives. So if you're watching this expecting to hear a lot of pros and cons, there aren't really going to be many on the cons list. This is going to be an overwhelmingly positive review because I've had an overwhelmingly positive experience with these knives. The fact that they have turned my head. I have never, ever been interested, even remotely interested, in slip joint knives until the inception of Jack Wolf Knives. And when I was introduced to them, I still was like, well, I don't know. And then I really looked at them like, man, titanium construction and really cool carbon fiber and other great materials and hand hollow ground. And oh man, this is really kind of exciting. And then I got the chance to start playing with them and feeling what it is that people find attractive about these knives. And you know what? I still have no interest in anybody else's slip joints, but I am thoroughly, completely addicted to these. So let's do the quick unboxing of it so you get the experience, because it really is an experience when you buy into a Jack Wolf Knives. You're not just buying the knife. You are getting obviously a collectible knife because he does monthly drops. They're all limited, and when they're done, that's it. But you're also getting really collectible packaging as well. So let's get this bad boy open and show you what it's all about. And you'll be seeing these up on my display behind me when I do my intros again. I love the packaging. Very, very cool. Cool artwork by Sean Tiffany. Great illustrations, beautifully done. Each of these tins is collectible along with the collectability of the knives. And as I've mentioned before, the other thing that I really enjoy about this is these are like starter kits. Every single knife that you buy, if you're like, well, man, you know, I'm getting into this slip joint thing, but I don't have any way to protect it. I don't have a leather slip or anything. It comes with all that. So let's get this open. Inside, you'll find your POG with the artwork on there. Inside will be a really generous sized microfiber cloth with the knife wrapped inside of it. There is your leather slip. This really is a big deal. I really like that they include these. And they're not just like cheap little things that are going to fall apart in a week. These are really well-made leather slips. And then you always get the artwork sticker, which is sometimes a challenge to get out of there. Oh, and you get the complimentary chiclets. But I'm not going to sit here and play with it all day on video. You guys have better shit to do. All right, so let's get this unwrapped. And there she is, the really cool Vampire Jack. Now, let's get into the new section that I am calling Tldw, Too Long Didn't Watch. For those of you that don't have the patience to learn more about the brand and the makers and all the nuances of the knife and really see the details, you just want that overview, that top view of what's important to know about the knife. Boom, here we go. This is another absolute 100% winner from Jack Wolf Knives. I can't say it nearly enough. I am so highly impressed by the quality of the knives and the packaging and the whole lifestyle that it's really bringing along. You know, it's kind of like, you know, when you talk to somebody It goes from, if they're into motorcycles, they go from buying, any random brands. They go into buying either a Ducati or a Harley Davidson. You're buying into a lifestyle with both of those brands very heavily. Anytime you go into a Harley dealer, whether you own the bike or not, you're greeted by other people that have the same interest as you, and they want to talk to you and learn about your bike and share stories and things of that nature. You go into a Ducati dealership, it's a lot the same way. And you buy into this whole lifestyle. You instantly have a collective of friends. It's not like going to like a Yamaha or a Honda or a Suzuki dealership, and nobody's really talking to each other, and it's just like a weird atmosphere. You're buying into a family. And that's really weird to say in the knife industry for knife collecting, but it really is true. You're buying into kind of this familial thing. And all of us are addicted to these things wholeheartedly. Like, you'll never find somebody that has just one and goes, yeah, it's okay. You're either going to love it or you're not. And for a lot of us, it has turned us into slip joint lovers. Crazy. Number 2, flawless construction. This thing is made exceedingly well. All of the Jack Wolf knives are beautifully done. Operationally, aesthetically, ergonomically, everything about them is literal perfection. Seamless transitions across the materials, and you are getting some very fine materials. We'll discuss that in the actual review portion. But so well done. Seamless from the back spring into the blade. Really just exceptional quality work. I could not be more impressed with an entire line of knives all at once. Excellent materials like the fat carbon lava flow covers that are on there. Normally in the knife collecting world, we would call them scales, but apparently slip joint people have their own vernacular, and those are called covers. Yes. And just, it's a beautiful seamless transition, really good looking materials. There were a number of different colors and choices and materials to choose from in micarta and carbon fiber. And this, oddly enough, was my absolute favorite one. I say oddly enough, you don't understand why. I'll tell you why when I get to the storytelling parts. The peaks that are in the center of this frame. When you see this in pictures, you're like, oh, that's going to be hot spots. They're going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to feel good in the hand. No, you could not be more wrong. Number 1, you don't even feel them as you're holding them, as you're holding the knife. It's almost like they're not even there. And also, they are gently rounded as well. So there's no actual coming to a peak, an actual corner up there. Very, very well done. Very comfortable in the hand. Again, thoughtful execution with quality materials. It feels larger than it actually is. It is about the same size as the low drag jack here, which was the newest release here in January. It is almost the same size, just a hair bigger. But the size of the handle is so much more fulfilling in the hand that it feels like a larger sized knife. When I compare it to the Cyborg feels considerably smaller, even though it's not. It's just the way this coffin style handle is done that makes it feel larger than it actually is. So for those of you that are like, oh, well, a lot of these slip joints are just too small for me, get yourself, find one and get yourself a Vampire Jack, and you'll be very satisfied with how it feels. This does have the best ergonomics of the 3 that I own. The Cyborg, I believe, is still always going to remain my favorite model because it's the most modern interpretation of a slip joint. It's not based on any classic pattern like this is or like the low drag is. But this is the most comfortable in the hand, and I have large hands, and it doesn't feel tiny or in any other way diminutive at all. It feels like a good, big, full-size knife in my hands, and I love that. As I mentioned in the very beginning, it's not just about the collectability of the knives, but it's the collectability of the packaging as well. It makes collecting these fun, like a child's toy. Like you're buying all the Transformers, you're buying all the G.I. Joes, you want to have the whole collection. I guess millennials, it's like the Pokemon thing. You got to collect them all. You get wrapped up in how cool the entire package is. And so you're going to have your knives, however you display your knives or store your knives, and you're going to end up having the packaging, the tubes, the tins on display. It's an interesting approach that we don't typically see in the knife world. It is scary, scary sharp. Just like so far all of the Jack Wolf knives that I've experienced, this hand hollow grind is very, very thin and comes down to a very, very sharp edge. This is going to be an actual usable knife that you're not going to just enjoy carrying and looking at and fidgeting with, but you're actually going to want to use. And I have been putting all of mine to good use every single day since I started getting into these things. And really, it's not even a con or a negative, but with such exceptional packaging, with so much thought put into this, with the oversized microfiber cloth. I mean, this thing is enormous. With the artwork that he's paying to have done, with all the additions, the slip and everything, I really would love to see Ben add one more thing to his packaging, and that's a COA card. Now, you're not going to be able to fit a card per se into that round tube, but it could be a trimmed down sort of thing. But some sort of certificate, some sort of COA that goes in there that shows when this was made. You know, like these were October of 2022 in this particular variation. If the Vampire Jack comes back next year, it'll be, different materials that are offered and different artwork. So it would be kind of a nice thing, especially as the brand ages, for people to be able to go back, because they're, not everybody's going to remember every day that every run was made available and everything. And they're going to want to know, when was this made? Was this a first run, second run? Was this during this time of year or that time of year? These are nice things to have. And I'm not saying individually number the knives, but if he only made 50 in this execution, it'd be nice if it said 1 of 50 or something like that. That's just my suggestion. Take it or leave it. It's not really all that important. So there is the Tldw on the Vampire Jack. Now let's get into the actual review of this bad boy. And after the review, I've just got a little quick story to tell about this knife and why it's so special to me personally. All right, let's get into the specs. You have a coffin pattern titanium slip joint. This is a titanium integral bolster design with double bolsters. Now, it's not an integral knife in like we talk about with frame locks or things like that. It is still made with separate components, but what you have here is that bolster is part of the actual frame and then the other bolster. So what they've done is they have machined out the center section to make room for the covers to put those in there. Your blade is a 3-inch M390 blade. That's 120 thou thick. It is 3.9 inches closed and weighs only 2.6 ounces. Your covers are fat carbon lava flow on this particular variation, and the hardware is titanium. Very quick on the specs, because there's not a lot to talk about when you have a non-locking knife. You're not dealing with bearings and the types of bearings. You're not dealing with different types of locks and all that stuff. It's a very simplified thing, and I think that's part of the enjoyment of these things is you're really just enjoying the simplest, most basic of knife making. Now, that doesn't mean that making the knives is simple at all. As a matter of fact, it's quite tricky because, again, as I've discussed before, you have to get that back spring to be completely flush with this frame in the open position, in the half lock position, if your knife has a half lock, which all the Jack Wolf knives do, and in the closed position, because as you see, when you're in between, it raises and it needs to go back down flush in all three positions. It has to feel solid as it bangs into each of those positions. A few of the slip joints that I have played with in the past have been a little weak on that. These are all serious. They are strong. You know that when it goes to that half stop, it is stopping right there. You know you have to make a conscious effort to close that blade to the half stop position and to the closed position. It takes a conscious effort to do so. If you've ever handled a slip joint and you put it in your hand and you're kind of holding it like a regular knife and you're like, oh, that feels really weak. I'd be scared of cutting myself. You don't have to worry about that with these knives. These are super, super strong, but not so strong that it feels impossible to operate. This particular version, I feel you do tend to use the nail nick more than just grabbing the blade. The Cyborg is very easy to just grab the blade and get it open. The low drag is not too difficult to open by the blade, but the nail nick does make it easier. This one I find I really can't pinch it very well, so I tend to start it with the nail nick and then I can grab the blade to open it. So this is definitely more of a nail nick opener, at least for me, and opinions may vary. Now, quick story time on this. I want to give a very, very, very heartfelt thank you to Benjamin Belkin, who owns the brand. He's created this insanity that is Jack Wolf knives. I have discussed all the things about him and the brand in my previous couple videos, so please do watch those. My heartfelt thanks to him because he's watched me turn into a fiend, a fiend for these knives. And almost instantly, we became very fast friends. We text back and forth like 16-year-old girls, and we were just BSing one night and not talking about anything really in particular that I can recall. And I said, there's definitely going to be some of the older models I'm going to start chasing down and try to get my hands on. And he's like, have you looked at the Vampire Jack? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's actually one that I really, really am interested in. He goes, you know what? I have an extra one sitting here from my stash. Let me just send that to you. You don't have to pay me for it or anything else. It's my gift to you. I'm enjoying seeing you enjoying this whole new world so much. And I really think that you would really like the Vampire Jack, that specific model. And I'm like, oh, dude, that's insane. He sent it out priority. It got here like 2-3 days later. And I just sat there kind of amazed. And not just at the knife, because the knife really is really, really amazing, but at the gesture that he made with someone that 2 weeks prior, we didn't even know each other. And through the introduction I got to him from Lefty EDC, my buddy Kevin, we began talking quite extensively as I was preparing to do the reviews on the two that you see here. And as we've talked, we've realized we have an enormous amount in common. And he's just a knife guy that loves knives. And he has enjoyed watching my journey and watching me completely flip out over these knives. And he says, you know what? This is a guy that really appreciates this stuff. I think this particular knife is just really going to tickle him. And he wanted to make sure I had one in my collection. And that's pretty friggin' awesome and something that's not quickly forgotten. So, Ben, thank you so very much for your generosity, because it certainly wasn't necessary, because I love the knives regardless. And this one, now that I have done the photography and now that I'm done doing the review, I get to carry it every single day, whenever I want. I've only carried this, I think, 2 or 3 times since I got it. My mainstay really has been my Cyborg. I mean, this thing is just so friggin' wicked cool, man. And it's unlike any other knife I have ever owned, period. And just that walk and talk is just, it feels great. It sounds great. It feels good in the hand. But as far as ergos go, like I mentioned before, this one really is the one that feels the best. It somehow feels larger, and that really is due to the way that the frame flares out in the middle. Feels like it's filling my hand a little bit better. The low drag, as much as I like the low drag, it's a very skinny handle, and it tapers to get even skinnier. But this one, I don't know. It really feels like it's a much larger knife than it is. And I feel like I've got a good, solid purchase on this. So if I was cutting something that was a lot more challenging, it was a much larger piece of cardboard, or I was doing a lot more filing down on a stick or something, this is the one I would want to have in my hand. This one is a little bit skinnier, and I don't really think that it would twist in my hand, but it does feel a little bit smaller. And the Cyborg, as good as it fits in my hand, it feels significantly smaller than this does. And again, there's almost no difference in the size. This one's like a magical little unicorn. It's a magical little creature. All right, let's get these others out of here, as I don't want to distract you with the other ones, but you really should watch the videos, because, man, just listening and understanding that I went from being somebody that really only carries lockable folding knives, I've never had an interest in slip joints, to all of a sudden just guffawing and going crazy over these things. Look at the details in this. So you've got a single line, double bolster design. Oh man, look how cool this is. Coffin pattern to the frame, all bead blasted titanium. The lava flow fat carbon fiber scales are gorgeous. Got a bead blasted ricasso. The hollow grind goes all the way up to the spine. Nice belt satin on there. And then a nice complementary swedge going right down to the tip. Look how clean those grinds are. They are definitely taking their time making these. I also love the large sharpening notch that's in here as well. Gives you a lot of room to use this knife over your lifetime and resharpen and resharpen and resharpen. You've got plenty of room there. That was the other thing I wanted to look at to compare. So this one, yeah, they all do. So the back spring goes all the way around and up on all three of these. Yeah, there's no worry, there's no risk at all of catching the tip of that blade. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can pinch it, but the nail nick definitely makes things easier. Anyway, I just wanted to get this video out there and let people see just how creative and cool this knife really is. I love the shape of it. I love how it feels in the hand. This may end up being the one that I carry the most, at least for a while. I don't know what's coming out next, but expect to see a lot more Jack Wolf knives on my channel. I'm going to try to participate with the monthly drops as often as feasible. And let's make this a monthly thing. Let's get together and discover this brand together. If you haven't gotten into them yet, I would tell you do it without hesitation, because you're going to experience something, if you're not into slip joints at all, that you've never experienced before. A new addiction, a new sound, a new feeling when you're deploying it, when you're closing it. There's a certain satisfaction to it. And these are not old-timer knives. They're based on old-timer patterns, absolutely. Not so much this one, because Ben designed that to be a modern interpretation. You're looking at something that, and these have been around for hundreds of years. And if you're already into slip joints and you already have a special love for them, I think that these will fit into your collection very well, because they will mate up very well with your more modern knives. When you're carrying a more modern frame lock flipper and you've got this in your pocket with it, they just go together well. If you've never been into slip joints and you're hesitant, I'm telling you right now, make the jump. Pick one of the versions, find one, or get in on the drops every month, and get one of the ones that interests you and the materials and colors that interest you. And I promise you, it's going to be a different experience than what you're expecting. And you know what? You don't really lose out, because if you're not really into it and you're like, you know what? It's cool, but I just can't do slip joints. It's super easy to turn around and flip one of these. You're not going to have a hard time reselling it. So take the leap, try it out, see what you think. And you know what? Come back and let me know. Whether it's a cyborg or it's a low drag or it's a vampire, come back to that video that I have on my channel and let me know. Hey, I just got my first whichever one. Or if it's a different model, comment on whatever video. I just got my first Jack Wolf knife, and you are right or you were wrong. And this is what it's done to me. This is how I feel about this knife now that I've had it a few days and I played with it and it's broken in and the slip is breaking in and it's in my pocket every day and I'm finding myself cutting with it more than my other knives. I promise you, you'll have a story to tell and some excitement to share, and I want to hear that from you. Anyway, that's it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for joining me as always, and I'll see you on the next video.